Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Back to the Dugout here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. I'm your host, Tobey Schulman, here as always on this Wednesday night. We're now in episode 2 of season 2, and we're also 30 days away from the college baseball season getting underway. And with that, I thought it was only right to make a list of the top 30 college draft prospects heading into the 2025 season. Just get a little bit of a benchmark as to where we're at with some of the better players in college baseball, get you to know some of these names that you can keep an eye on for the rest of the season, and just have kind of a list of us to revisit back in what it would be like June when the draft's about to come around again. So instead of just having like a mock draft episode or something later on, I want to get more episodes out on college baseball so we can get more of the landscape on this show at least, and just get more of the college baseball world involved. But before we do that, and I imagine that's going to take a majority of this episode, we do have a little bit of news. And while there's no real update on Roki Sasaki and where he will go, there are 3 teams that we know that have a chance to actually land the right-handed superstar from Japan. And that's the 3 teams right in front of you on the screen. As you can see here, the LA Dodgers, the Toronto Blue Jays, oddly enough, and then the San Diego Padres. So we knew those 2 teams out west in the Dodgers and the Padres were going to be in on Roki pretty heavily. We know that he has a very deep connection there with Yu Darvish. And I don't know if anyone else saw, but I saw, and I don't know if this was confirmed, but he was in Padres gear throwing a bullpen in Petco Park. Not sure, again, if that was 100%. It was a video taken from what looked like to be the nosebleeds of the stadium. So I personally have no idea if that was an actual fabricated clip, if that was a real clip. Again, I just don't know. But I did see that, so that's pretty interesting. But I also know that the Dodgers have already, I am pretty sure, met with him, and they were bringing out probably all the big guns for that. I imagine Shohei, Yoshinobu Yamamoto would be at that meeting. Pretty much anybody they could need to convince him. I feel like the Dodgers could go out there and get it done. So we got to talk about where I think he's going to go before we get into the college baseball list that I have. And I honestly think it's a toss-up between San Diego and LA. I don't really know what Toronto's doing here. I mean, I feel like Roki might have that idea of just being the face of an entire country of baseball. That could be intriguing. I wouldn't be mad at all about Roki Sasaki signing with the Blue Jays. It would just be a little more confusing when you know that the Dodgers are going to be willing to pay him a lot more when he hits free agency a second time around. And, we obviously know about that relationship he has with the Padres beforehand, but with other issues with their ownership recently, I'm not sure if that's really a place where Sasaki might feel like there's a lot of stability going forward. And he's really, I think, a forward-thinking person right now. He's obviously not waiting to be posted as a 25-year-old coming out of Japan. So he wants to set himself up, I think, in the best possible way with the team that will give him the most amount of money once he hits free agency that second time around. And I think he saw that with Shohei. He saw that with Yamamoto. They got big deals and they got paid real well. And I think that he knows the Dodgers are going to be the team that's most willing to do that. And, while I feel like any other team would probably be willing to, there's less of a gamble there with the Dodgers. And I think that they would be willing to take him back faster than anybody else would and give him pretty much a blank check if that's what he will require, way down the road. But again, that's not going to be for a little bit. I think he's going to be a Dodger. I don't really agree anymore with this notion that he does really want to be on a team with a bunch of other Japanese players. I think that's going to be a big draw for him, especially given the fact that he just kind of crossed out teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Giants like that. I feel like he really just has a personal preference here. San Diego, obviously a great Japanese market as well, and a great market for Asian baseball as a whole. But LA is just on just a different playing field right now. They're the pinnacle of just foreign export signing with them. And it's not even just coming from Japan. We see Korean players signing with them as well. And it is just getting out of hand at this point. And I think it's going to stay getting out of hand with the Dodgers signing Roki Sasaki. For the entire league's sake, I hope it doesn't happen. But for Dodgers fans' sake, I guess I hope it does. I don't know. I personally don't want to see Sasaki go there, but I just think that's the most likely place. I don't know how great Roki probably feels about the ownership there in San Diego right now. So just something to think about with Roki Sasaki here, as I've heard rumors that he's going to sign today. Now tonight, I have no idea if that's going to have any movement here. But phone's on, so if we get any notifications about where he's signing, we'll revisit that and drop this baseball list that we're doing and just go back to Sasaki. But just wanted to get that out of the way here before we get into the remainder of this show and get into the nitty gritty, which is the top 30 preseason college baseball draft prospects coming into the 2025 season. So what I did basically was looked at the MLB Pipeline's 2025 highest ranked prospects for this upcoming draft and took the top 30 college players and just kind of re-ranked them to my liking. There may be a lot of guys that you probably think if you're in tune with the college baseball scene, and especially the draft eligible players, there might be some guys where you think they should have made this list. There are definitely guys that are ranked, not in this top 30 that I think do deserve honorable mentions, but unfortunately won't be getting to that today. We've got 30 guys to talk about here. I've got clips that I'm going to bring up of all of them when I'm talking about them, and we're just going to do short little brief discussion about that, why I think they are in the top 30 or why they are where they are in the top 30. And that should take us to the end of the show, I imagine. So enough of Roki. We got to talk some college baseball right now. And we're going to start this list off with a right-handed pitcher from the SEC, from the University of Georgia. And we are going to be talking about Colton Smith, a player that I think is really, really solid and is the best pitching draft prospect out of the University of Georgia in a long time. Standing at 6'3" and weighing 209 pounds. He's a very well-rounded prospect as a whole, getting a 55 grade on his fastball, a 60 grade on his curve, a 45 grade on his changeup, so a little bit below average there on that fourth pitch. But the third pitch there is something that makes Colton really interesting to me, and that's the fact that he has a 65 grade on his cutter. Now, keep in mind, an 80 grade is the highest you can go, and usually these are, or not usually, they are in increments of 5 when they go up. So when you have 55, 60, 65, you can obviously tell what's a better grade there. So his cutter stands out to be his best pitch by far in his pitch mix. And to have from the right side a 4-pitch mix in college is, I think, really advanced compared to a lot of other arms. I think at 21 years old, he shows a lot of poise and just really great and solid command, honestly. He has a 50 grade on his control as well. So he obviously, that's not something you got to worry about with him. But he's got a great 4-pitch mix, like I talked about, and that's his calling card, really. He had a 13.6 K per nine for Georgia in 2024. He could limit the long ball a bit more in 2025. That's really the only complaint I have with his game, honestly. Other than that, I love the cutter. I think that's going to just dice people up again in 2025, and I think we're going to see him rank highly amongst a lot of the pitchers in the SEC this season. But I'm really excited to see that 65 grade cutter. Like I said, that 60 grade curveball working with a fastball that, is above average and can probably, I'd imagine he could probably get 96 on the fastball. It says he touches 96, sits more 92, 94. So Colton's going to be an interesting prospect to keep an eye on in this upcoming baseball season. I'm not quite sure how Georgia as a whole is going to do, but they have a lot of prospects that look really solid and a couple other guys that we are going to talk about here in the video today. So starting off the top 30, Colton Smith, right-handed pitcher from Georgia. And moving on, we have got another pitcher here who is actually out of the ACC, another right-handed pitcher from Stanford, and I'm actually going to mute that clip so we don't have to listen to that. Another USA Baseball clip here. You've got Matt Scott from Stanford, a 6'7", 247-pound just monster. This dude is a very terrifying at-bat for anybody that's going to face him in non-con and ACC play. He's got a fastball that is very above average, and it tops out at 96 miles an hour. 60 grade slider to go along with that, and a 60 grade on his changeup. Very solid 3-pitch mix to sport for Stanford this season in ACC play. The ERA, it was a bit inflated last season in 15 starts, but he recorded an 11.59 K per nine while recording 103 strikeouts to 36 walks. A great arm in terms of this whole college class, but in terms of some of the other ones that we're going to get into here very soon, I just don't really think he stacks up as one of the more eye-opening arms here. But for sure, one of those guys who just is built like a professional pitcher. 6'7", near 250. He's going to post up a monster year, I'd assume, and really just improve all across the board, I feel like. Stanford, I feel like, should do a lot better in ACC play than they were doing in the Pac-12, and they've got a really good offense as well. So I'm really excited for Stanford, and I'm really excited to see what Matt Scott can do for them. He is going to come in at my 29th spot here on the top 30. And moving on, we've got another pitcher, and we've got our first left-handed arm to talk about here on the episode, and it is Cade Anderson from LSU. And this is a guy that I feel like is kind of has a higher ceiling than most of the pitching prospects that we'll talk about today. I believe he's still 20 years old. Yeah, he is 20 years old. He was born July of 2004. He had Tommy John surgery back in April 2022, and he missed his entire senior season and the following spring because of it. Naturally, they're going to ease him back into everything that he's doing in terms of just baseball operations, but he's still managed to rise the ranks of the prospects in this upcoming draft, and he has earned himself a 55 grade on his fastball and his curveball, as well as a 60 grade on his slider and a 50 on his changeup. So a great four pitch mix. Almost said five there. A great four pitch mix. He proves to be a tough at bat for any hitter out of the SEC. You can see he's getting some good swings and misses here. A lot of just staring down whatever off speed he's throwing there as well. So you can see he pairs the fastball very, very well. He has flashed some high velocity at times. I think he's managed to touch like 96 at times, but that's really as fast as he's going from the left-hand side. And in 38.1 innings pitched last season, Anderson recorded a 3.99 ERA with a near 14 K per nine as well. With 50 graded control too, this is why I just feel like he has a higher ceiling than most. MLB Pipeline says he has a quick arm and athletic delivery, which I think is going to really benefit him in the future, hopefully keep him a lot healthier. And that's really all you could say about Cade Anderson is if this guy is healthy, he's going to be a really solid arm for your rotation, to even come out of your bullpen. Obviously, with that injury history, I'm not too sure what LSU is going to have him really do here. But the pitching staff is looking really solid for the Tigers heading into 2025. And we know obviously what this team can do, and they have a good pitching staff. So I'm excited to see what they do. Hopefully they do a little bit better than last year and just put a more, not competitive product, but just a more winner. I feel like, they have guys like William Schmidt, other arms that we'll talk about on here. I feel like it's going to be a great year for the LSU Tigers, and Cade Anderson, he should be a very big part of that. Now, next we have to talk about a transfer to North Carolina, and this guy I'm really excited to see how he does in the ACC. We're talking Cade Kepley, outfielder from North Carolina, and notably smaller than a lot of the prospects that we're going to be discussing today in this show. Kepley comes into the season listed at 5'8" and 165 pounds. So not really the frame that you would expect a first-round talent to have. Whether or not he will be a first-rounder, I think is still very up in the air. But despite the small frame, or the small frame compared to others, he still managed to get a 55 grade hit tool, and he combines that with his 60 grade run tool in the outfield to pair with 60 grades on his fielding. And when you don't really have all of that pop in you, it's great to have a guy who could at least get it done in the field, who can get it done out there on the base pass from time to time, who can just hunt down fly balls for you. That's something that I feel like with Vance Honeycutt, the Tar Heels were very, very used to. And having Kepley now to replace him, I feel like is a really, really solid replacement. While you're not going to get the power numbers out of him, like I said, you are going to get a guy who's just a very good pure hitter. This was a guy who had a lot of success in the Conference USA with Liberty, where he hit 332, 484 on the on-base percentage and a slugging percentage at 523. That was last season for the Flames, and he had an OPS of over 1,000 for them. So, again, I'm very interested to see what he does in ACC play this season. The Tar Heels are looking to make it back to Omaha and to make a bit more of a splash than they did last season. I'm personally very excited to see what this team does. There are a couple prospects in this Tar Heel lineup that I feel like are going to have really, really solid years to raise their draft stock, and I think Cade Kepley is just one of those names. Again, 5'8" and 165 pounds. At least I'm rooting for this guy to do very well. I think he's going to have a monster season, and I really hope that he can at least raise his draft stock a little bit more. But I think he's in a very good spot here. But moving on down to player that I feel like I actually forgot a clip for. So we'll just talk about him while we still have Kepley's info up here. But Kyson Witherspoon from Oklahoma right-handed pitcher who has had a lot of time in college baseball, not just at Oklahoma, but with Northwest Florida State as well, before transferring to Oklahoma for the 2024 season. A 60 grade on his fastball and his slider. If Witherspoon can develop just a bit more of a third pitch there, maybe develop that changeup a little bit further, I think this guy can be a really solid pitcher this season for the Sooners, as he's kind of been his whole career with them. But I feel like this season especially is a big building block for him. We'll see what he's able to do. But last season, in 80 innings pitched for the Sooners, he pitched to a 3.71 ERA across 18 games, 11 of those being starts, with a K per 9 of 10.13. So he can get strikeouts. He can really work that fastball and that 60 grade slider as well. He's got 60 grades on both of them, which is really why I feel like he's in this top 30 to begin with. But I mean, a 45 grade on the changeup, a 45 grade on the control. There's definitely some work to be done, in my opinion, for a guy like Kyson Witherspoon. And while a lot of people might not agree, I feel like, he's not really as highly ranked in the pipeline as maybe some other people think. But just my opinion on him, I think he's a solid pitcher nonetheless. We'll see what he's able to do for the Sooners in 2025. But moving on to another position player and a guy with a name that I really don't want to butcher here, because I've been really just thinking like all day, how can I pronounce this and not screw it up? It's Arkansas's shortstop, Wahua Aloy. And again, I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I do apologize. But this is a really intriguing prospect, as he came onto the college baseball scene with Sacramento State back in 2023. With Sac State, he hit 376, 427, and 662 with a 1,089 OPS. 14 home runs to go along with that. So he flashes a bit of power here and there, has an above average graded power tool at 55. The hit tool overall is a 45, which after seeing that, I mean, that's like a 470-foot bomb that you're seeing to the right of me. He really shows more power than I think he's given credit for. This is a guy who had his numbers slightly regress, unsurprisingly, after moving to the SEC, but the production was still very solid. Loy hit 270 for the Razorbacks in 2024 with a 355 on base percentage and a slugging percentage of 485. He kept the strikeout rate pretty controlled, which I think is a very overlooked part about players moving in from a conference where, Sac State is to absolute juggernaut of the SEC. Aloy's a decently well-rounded prospect. Better season offensively. I could see really improving his overall attributes, not only in the pipeline, but just his overall draft stock as well. This is a really solid overall shortstop to have for Arkansas, a program that just generates draft picks and is a team that I can imagine will only give Aloy the best shot of going higher in this year's draft. Someone I am honestly very high on out of this whole top 30 that we're doing today, but definitely a name that I would not rank higher than a lot of these other guys. And someone that I think is just slightly better, but ranks kind of higher in this whole power attributes compared to everything else, is Tennessee's third baseman, or New Tennessee third baseman, Andrew Fisher, who has kind of been a bit of a college baseball journeyman. He started with Duke, I believe. And then, he started with Duke, where he hit for a 289 average, 11 home runs in 47 games. He then decided to transfer to Ole Miss in 2024, where he would see his barely, I believe it sat around 285 last year. The OPS improved to over 1,000. He hit 20 home runs in the season with Ole Miss, and he now moves to Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers for the 2025 season. So Tennessee obviously losing some big names in that infield. Christian Moore obviously departing, and they've got some really solid players to fill those shoes. But their infield is just looking completely stacked again. And Fisher is a guy that I am really excited to see what he can do with his third different team here in his college baseball career. But like Aloy, he has a hit tool that's only graded here at 45, but the power is just slightly better there with a 60 grade. He's not going to do much on the base pass with a 40 grade run, but he does have an above average arm there, slightly below average fielding. The bat's really his calling card. If he's going to be hitting bombs like you guys see here to the right of me, That's really all Tony Vitello and the Volunteers can ask for, honestly. So we'll see what he's able to do for the Volunteers here in the 2025 season. I expect them to tap into something, even better with him, and I expect him to probably be able to get that average up into the 300s this season. I think he'll raise that home run total as well. Maybe be a closer to almost 30 home runs this season type of guy. But a lot of upside here with Andrew Fisher going to the Tennessee Volunteers this season. This is a guy who obviously knows what he could get tapped into personally, being in Tennessee. So playing at Duke, playing at Ole Miss, he's played at some very good programs. I think it's only right that this guy becomes a Tennessee Volunteer at this point. But moving on to, I believe, the first catching prospect we're going to talk about in this draft. And it's arguably the best catcher in the draft, but I just don't see it as that way. It's Caden Bodine from Coastal Carolina. I've seen different media outlets call him the best catcher in the draft, and I would not entirely disagree with that. I definitely think he's one of the better hitting catchers in the draft. He just comes into this list, for what should be a very productive season with Coastal, but I just don't know how he's going to compare to some of the other catchers, say, in the SEC. It's going to be a tough battle to really decide who to take if you're looking for a catcher in the draft, but he's still, regardless, one of the best players in college baseball. In 116 games with Coastal in his career, Bodine's hit 20 home runs, 118 RBIs, and he's walked more than he has struck out as well. In his career at Coastal, he's also hit for a slash line of 346, a 432 on base, and a 562 slug with a 996 OPS. Projects to be a 20 to 30 home run guy at the major league level, I'd only assume. He's just the key to the Chanticleer success for 2025. And I know Coastal is going to be in it and will probably be fighting for a regional and hopefully a super regional this year. But always a competitive team to watch. He's got a smooth swing from both sides, as you can see, a switch hitter. And I think he's going to be really solid again, a 60 grade hit tool, lower on the power at a 40, 30 grade on the run. I think just those 40 and 30 grades make him just sit a little bit less than some of the other catchers here in this draft class. But I'm going to take a quick break here about midway through the episode. We will be back in about 3 minutes to talk about the rest of this list. Don't know how far we are necessarily through it, but we've got a lot of prospects to talk about, so I am excited. But you are watching Back to the Dugout here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, and I will see you guys in a few minutes. We are back here for the second half of Back to the Dugout. We are going to be talking about more of these college draft prospects coming into the 2025 season, just rounding out the rest of our top 30. I thought I wasn't taking enough time on these players, and it seems like we've got like 30 minutes to do over 20 guys still. So, yeah, we got to start moving. But we're going to start off with a right-handed pitcher out of the University of Tennessee. And as you guys can see to the right, it is A.J. Russell, a player who's kind of battled injury in his time in college. But despite that, I mean, he's still been one of the best arms available, especially in this draft class. Overall, as far as his pitch mix goes, he's got a 3-pitch mix where he has a 70 graded fastball, among one of the best in college baseball, a 60 grade slider, 40 grade on the changeup, but other than that, a 55 control. So he's going to throw strikes for you, pound that strike zone, and give you elite velocity with that fastball. Like I said, another contender for the best fastball in college baseball. Russell gives a pitcher that we're going to talk about here next on the list, Chase Shores, a run for his money. But from the right-hand side, he might have one of the best fastballs in just the entire nation. Obviously not talking about certain left that still remain on this list. But pairing it with a great 60 grade slider, like I said, this is one of the last arms I'd personally want to face in the SEC right now. He saw a ton of success out of the bullpen in 2023, where he posted a 0.89 ERA and a K per 9 near 14. That K per 9 did not dip as a starter in 2024, but his health and shoulder just kind of kept him off the mound. A healthy season can propel Russell, I feel, into the top half of the first round, where I think he rightfully deserves to be. I feel like we know what Tennessee arms are capable of, and there really doesn't need to be much else said than that. So A.J. Russell coming into the top 30, it's only right. We go back to another SEC pitcher here for our next player here that we're going to talk about. And we're talking about Chase Shores, like I kind of alluded to earlier when talking about A.J. Russell. But this is another one of those pitchers that is just built like a professional, a 6'8", 245-pound, just complete stud from the right-hand side is I feel like the only way to really say this, I guess just in the right way. He may be the guy that just possesses the best fastball from the right-handed side. It's to me either him or A.J. Russell, but he is one of the best right-handers in this class, period. While he only threw 18.1 innings pitched in 2023, the potential is certainly there. He had a 1.96 ERA in this stretch, and then after recovering from Tommy John, he's said to have been hitting triple digits in the fall on that fastball, which I believe is the video you're seeing to the right. I believe this is coming from fall this season, and I'm just very excited to see what he can do in 2025 if he's able to stay fully healthy. Again, a rotation with him, Cade Anderson, William Schmidt, an incoming freshman that went pretty high in the draft. These are guys that are going to shut down the SEC, and I'm very, very excited to see what that looks like for the following season. So hopefully if the Yankees get around to Chase Shores, maybe they'll take him because they've been really active in taking these SEC arms. But moving on to our next bat prospect, we've got another transfer to Tennessee to fill that role of Christian Moore at second base. It's Gavin Kalen, Tennessee's newest second baseman. He falls into the top 30 while manning down the middle infield with other projected first rounder who we'll talk about here momentarily, Dean Curley. And while he didn't hit a ton of home runs, he hit about 9. He's hit 23 doubles and 3 triples in 2024 for a slash line of 330 with an on base of 361 and 591 on the slug with a 952 OPS. His strikeout rate the last 2 seasons have been below 10%, despite the walk rate being fairly low. When you're striking out at that low of a clip, it really doesn't matter. This is a guy who hits the ball at just an absurd rate. And if he could tap into a little more power with Tony Vitello, he's going to rise up draft boards even more. So another name to be excited for is Gavin Kalen, the second baseman this season for Tennessee. Was really good for Louisville. I expect him to be even better for the Volunteers going into 2025. And, you know, for Christian Moore being the 8th overall pick this season, this is a very good replacement, I feel like, for him. And this whole infield is just looking stacked this season. But now we got to talk about a couple prospects from the University of Virginia. And it's only right that we start out with Henry Ford, their first baseman This is a really interesting prospect to me. Uh, these two Virginia prospects that we're going to be talking about are like ranked right next to each other on MLB Pipeline, and I kind of feel like it's the same way for me. A right-handed bat kind of reminds me a little bit of Pete Alonso's 6'5", 220. I'm not sure if anybody feels the same way about that if you're familiar with Henry Ford, but 55 grade hit tool, 55 grade power tool, and then 40 on the run, 45 on the arm, and then a fielding tool of 50 grade there. So really solid overall. I think that he has all the tools to be a solid major league first baseman. It's just the power is not really what I thought it would be for a guy who's 6'5" and 220. I would expect that to be in like the 60s, 65s, but that's not always everybody's build. Completely understand that. With Virginia last season, he posted a slash line of 336, 409, 597 for an OPS over 1,000. Tallied 85 hits, 17 home runs, and 69 RBIs. And while he doesn't generate a lot of power, like I said earlier, the hit tool is definitely a professional material. And with a better season with the Cavaliers in 2025, he can raise his draft stock even more. Again, while not the best on the base path or the field, they'll get a lot of doubles and they will get a lot of singles from a guy like Henry Ford. So he will be productive there at the plate for them, no doubt. But another player from Virginia who will be undoubtedly very productive and is just overall a lot better, in my opinion, is Henry Godbout, a second baseman from the University of Virginia. One of the Cavaliers' many prospects, Godbout improved his numbers greatly in 2024. This past season, he hit 372 with a 472 on base percentage, a 645 slug for an OPS of over 1,100. He walked significantly more, struck out less, and hit for more power with 9 home runs compared to a less amount in the previous year. While it's not a lot, this guy really just improved his offensive production around the board. And I feel like that is really all you want to see in a draft eligible prospect. I expect those numbers to not only improve, but maybe improve even more. I don't know how you could really improve the batting average more, but maybe the slug could go up. Maybe the on base could go up. Take a look at more underlying numbers and see what he does with those. But this is a guy who's going to be extremely productive at the plate. And when it comes to himself in the field, he still ranks just average there with a 50 grade on the field. Obviously, at second base, you don't really need the arm, so his arm is graded at only a 50, but a 60 grade hit tool. Certainly one of the more polished hitters in this draft class alone. But moving down to another player in a P4, not an ACC player, but an SEC player, we're going to be looking at another catcher here. And we've got Ike Irish of the Auburn Tigers. This is a bat that I am honestly really intrigued in just because he's got a really nice swing there from the left side, as you can see. But I think a lot of people are very, very high on Irish, and I don't know if I necessarily agree. In 47 games compared to, I believe, more in 2024. I wrote 47 in the notes, but I believe it was more in 2023. Irish saw an overall decrease in his numbers, in his number of hits, and batting average, but still put up great production as a whole. He hit 319, 403, 627, added 14 home runs to that, and had an OPS over 1,000. So he's obviously able to get it done at the plate. Now, when it comes to in the field, he's a little below average. The arm is a little above average. So there is something to work with there, but it's not necessarily anything really too elite in terms of catchers. So I just don't know if I would be willing to call him the best catching prospect. I do like his swing and I do like his hit tool a lot. He lowered the strikeout rate and raised the walk rate as well last season. So I'll be really interested to see what he does with the power and see if he shows more of it in 2025. And I think that'll be very telling for the rest of his draft stock moving forward. But we've got to talk about another infielder from Tennessee. I feel like we're just going through the whole ringer here. We've got to talk about Dean Curley, who is one of my favorite just overall names in this draft class, but one of my favorite players in this entire draft class as well. This is a guy who is one of the biggest pieces to this Tennessee Volunteers championship team last season. Just as a freshman, too. He comes in with one of the best he comes in as one of the best overall college draft prospects in the class. Hit 273 for the Volunteers with an 880 OPS, but I believe went like 6 for 12 or something in the College World Series finals. He has what it takes to be top half of the first round type of guy if he has an elite season. He flashes incredible arm strength from the infield, graded at 65 by MLB Pipeline. Hit 12 home runs, 8 doubles, and a triple last season. He's showing more on the power upside, so I'd expect that to really improve as well. Just an overall great prospect, guy that I personally am going to be watching very closely as we watch a lot of Tennessee baseball and just kind of move through SEC play this season. But moving on here, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice, still getting over a little bit of a cold here. So if you hear my voice kind of going, that's what I'm kind of dealing with. But trying to keep it going here as we got a little bit more of this list to work through. But moving on, we've got another transfer here who I really want to talk about, but I'm just going to let this clip play and take a brief sip of water here before we keep going. But take a look at Ethan Conrad, an outfielder from Wake Forest. Oh, I guess there's really no sound on it either way. Well, Ethan Conrad is a transfer from obviously going into Wake Forest, transferred over from Marist, and like Seaver King, managed to go first round after transferring to Wake from a small school. I expect a guy like Ethan Conrad to be in the same position, or at least to be given the opportunity to be in the same position. He's just that good of a prospect. His numbers at Marist were phenomenal, as you could probably imagine, in 2 seasons there. He hit 359, 425, 587 with an OPS of 1,000. He was really solid there, a 425 batting average on balls in play. So if he was putting that ball in play, he was going to make it hurt. 9% walk rate, an 18% strikeout rate. Not a ton of pop, but he'll hit a lot of doubles and give you 20 stolen base potential pretty much every season. Again, just one of my favorite overall prospects in this draft. I personally really like what he brings to the table here for Wake Forest. I just don't know necessarily if he's like a Seaver King type of guy or if he's going to just be completely different. We'll see. But moving down to another catching prospect here, and he's been rated as one of the better catching prospects in the country. It's Luke Stevenson from North Carolina, and just another guy who I feel like is overall just a really solid catching prospect. We're going to take a closer look at his profile here on MLB Pipeline. I'm just kind of losing it, but we've got a 45 grade hit tool, above average power, as you can see from the left side, and you can see what he's able to do behind the plate there as well. A quick pop time. Sorry, my voice is just completely going, but sorry, I'm just seeing this comment. Any big league possibilities from FAU? Definitely some. There are some players that I think have a really good shot. I think John Schroeder has a really good shot of getting drafted higher than we really thought he would have last year. But in terms of just the top 30, unfortunately not a Nolan Shanuel type of guy or something like that who could make it higher on this list than any of the guys we've mentioned before. But going back to Stevenson here, MLB Pipeline's highest ranked college catcher in this upcoming draft. He can really improve his draft stock if he puts together better production on offense. The 283 hitter, Stevenson recorded a 966 OPS with 14 home runs and 58 RBIs, a great arm behind the plate, and a near 18% walk rate. Stevens is set to have a big year for the Tar Heels coming up. So I really think he's going to be solid, and I think he's going to maintain this spot as the best overall catcher in the draft, but we'll just have to see about that. But as we round to the last about 15 minutes here, I'm just going to take one more quick break, let myself just kind of catch my breath and get some water in me, and then we'll be back in about 2 minutes to talk about the rest of the top 30. But again, you were watching Back to the Dugout. I do apologize for the, surplus of breaks this episode, but just trying to not let my voice completely die out before we get to the at least top 10 of these guys. So I'll be back in a couple minutes to give you guys the rest of this list. right, we're back for the last little bit of Back to the Dugout today. We've still got a bunch of players to talk about here, and if my voice starts to go again, I apologize for that, but I'm trying to work through it as best as I can. I feel like everybody's just a little sick down here in South Florida, and we're just trying to work through it. So, next bat we got to talk about shortstop out of Wake Forest in Marek Houston, and in his second full season with Wake, he improved his numbers greatly on the offensive end. Although not graded with the best hit tools overall, in 2024, he hit .324 with a .433 on base, a .524 slug, and totaled a .957 OPS. He hit 16 more extra base hits and flashed more power, hitting 9 home runs last season. Like Seaver King, Ethan Conrad, this is just a guy that I feel like is going to be able to really become perfectly polished at Wake this season. Being draft eligible, they know now what they really have to get out of him to get him into the first round. And I feel like Wake is just a team that does that a lot better than any other college baseball team in the ACC. And we'll see. I mean, you can see the power that he shows here. He's definitely got that ceiling in him. And I'm really intrigued to see what Marek Houston can do for the Demon Deacons this season. But moving on to another outfielder, but this time from the SEC. We're going with Max Bellew. And again, I don't know if I'm saying that name 100% right, but Max Bellew is the name we're going with here. He had a phenomenal 2024 season where he hit .329, a .423 on base, a .667 slugging percentage with an OPS well over 1,000. He recorded 34 extra base hits, 18 home runs, 53 RBIs. The strikeout rate was well below 20% as well, with a great arm in the outfield. This is just a guy who has a lot of not a lot of potential. I feel like the potential is well known with him. He's got a lot of potential to go high in the draft, but he's just really well-rounded as a player. This is a guy who I feel like is going to maybe fall a little bit, and whatever team can let him fall into their laps are going to come away with a really solid pick. I'm not sure how much money he's really going to command, but this is a guy who ranks high on the MLB pipeline. He's 14th here, and I believe he's not too far off on my list. So we'll see what he's able to do. Over 50 grade on pretty much everything for him. So he's a really well-rounded prospect. But moving on, we've got an Oregon State infielder to talk about here. And it is Trent Caraway, the third baseman for the Beavers. Not the only Oregon State infielder we'll talk about on this list. Caraway displays a pro build without even swinging a bat. Just looking at what his build is, he's 6'2", 203 from the infield. Just kind of has that third baseman build, 60 grade on the arms. That's what you want there at the hot corner. He's a powerful right-handed hitter. That's just his calling card. He flashes that 60 grade arm, like I said, and he also hit .339 in 2024 with a .431 on base and a .516 slug. And impressively, he had a .514 batting average on balls in play. So, I mean, we'll just see what he's able to do, and I'm not sure why we got a little, a little draft analysis, something Breaking Bad style intro or outro there on that Trent Caraway clip. But you can see the power that he brings. It's certainly something special there, and he'll be flashing that in Corvallis all season long. Excited to see what he does, but not necessarily sure what that's going to completely look like with their new schedule or whatever they're doing. I'm not sure what Oregon State's schedule looks like. So moving on, we have got Devin Taylor here of the Indiana Hoosiers. He just has like that old school swing, and I really like that about him. When it comes back around, you'll see it a little bit more, but he broke out in a big way with Indiana this last season, and the team as a whole broke out. And in 2024, they were a really solid team to watch out of the Big Ten. 2 full seasons with the Hoosiers. Taylor's been incredible. In 114 games, he's hit .338 with a .440 on base and a .655 slug. An OPS near 1,100. This is a guy who's hit 36 home runs, 24 doubles in that stretch as well. He just screams polished college bat that would fly through a minor league system, and I hope that's what he turns into here for whatever team drafts him. And ultimately, I hope he goes higher than I project him, at least, because I really think he is a very solid overall prospect. But sorry. Moving on to another Georgia player, and I believe this is the last Georgia player on this list. We've got to talk about.
And here they are hours later in their second game of the day with a 2-run lead, but hold on a second. Phelps, there it goes, gone!
Yeah, so you can see the power that he's flashing is something that is very real power from Trey Phelps. Another one of my favorite overall prospects in this draft class. He's a well-rounded athlete just as it is. You could see just the build that he has. It is just made for professional baseball. He hit 12 home runs in 42 games, recording 11 doubles on top of that with 40 RBIs. He hit for a slash line of 353, 441, 699 for an OPS well over 1100, striking out less than 10% of the time. A powerful right-handed hitter. Phelps should really be higher up on most draft boards than I feel like people have him at. One of my favorite players by far in this draft. Just such a smooth swing from that right side. He just displays such a just easy understanding of just hitting the baseball, it appears to be. And he's a guy that I feel like is going to hit a lot of home runs next season. And I'm really, really excited to see it. But moving on, we're going to go actually back out west, and we're going to go back to Tucson, where we've got Arizona's Brendan Summerhill, who saw a ton of improvement after the 2024 season on 58 games, or in the 2024 season, I should say. He hit really, really well, raising his batting average, slugging percentage, and his overall OPS. The walk rate, unsurprisingly, went down, playing a lot more games in 2024 than he did in 2023. But the strikeout rate decreased dramatically from nearly 27% to under 13%. A well-rounded prospect. I feel like in 2025, it's going to be a big year for him to just build onto this and to really just raise his draft stock. But moving on, we've got a guy that I'm also very high on, and it's Oklahoma State's Nolan Schubert. Similar to a guy we're going to talk about next, he provides more with the bat than really anything else. On the base pass in the field, he's not going to give you much, but with that bat, he's going to provide power. He's going to provide a great hit tool. In 110 games at Oklahoma State, Schubert hit 352, 480, 743 with an OPS north of 1,200. He's tallied 40 home runs in that stretch as well, with a 451 batting average on balls in play, a 21.68% walk rate back in 2024. He strikes out quite a bit, but with that production that he's giving you at the rate that he walks and for the power that he hits, it's well worth it if he's striking out a little bit, honestly. I'm not worried about that. What he can do with the bat is really just something elite. And I feel like he is honestly a little too low on a lot of people's draft boards. I would want him to see him go higher, but I feel like after the season, he will really show that he's going to go a lot higher than he really, I guess, is slated to be now. But another guy who I feel like should be given more of a look than he really is, and maybe I'm just missing something everyone else doesn't see, and that's Ethan Petrie, first baseman and outfielder out of South Carolina. While in 2024 his numbers slightly regressed, Petrie has been an incredible player all throughout his college career. He hit 341, 471, and 686 with an OPS north of 1,100 in 124 games. In that stretch, he hit 44 home runs and recorded 128 RBIs. While he won't provide a lot or really anything with the base running, he has the power upside to be a 30 to 40 home run a year guy at the major league level. And at 6'4", 235 pounds, I mean, these are just physical attributes for a major leaguer. So if I'm a team that's looking for a bat like Ethan Petrie or Nolan Schubert, I would not, maybe wait to see if they slide into the second round. These guys have first round talent, and I feel like after the years that they're going to have in 2025, these are going to be players who are going to be hopefully talking about in July going in the first round. But those are two players I think I'm very, very high on. Ethan Petrie especially, I believe, just not making that top five. But now we entered the top five here with 5 minutes to go. And I've got Oregon State's second baseman, Iva Arquette. I believe Iva Arquette's the name. Iva Arquette. I don't know. We'll call him Arquette for the sake of this video. From one stud second baseman to another, I guess Travis Bazzana wasn't enough for the Oregon State Beavers. They now have the top college infield prospect in Iva Arquette. They now have him to the squad in 2025 after transferring from Washington, where he was a career .311 hitter. He's coming off a solid summer in Cape Cod as well, where he hit almost 300. And I think the Beavers are hoping they can unlock something with him to propel his draft stock up even further. But, he's coming in at number 5 here, just off of where I think he is on MLB Pipeline. But a guy I'm really high on compared to a lot of other people is a guy that I posted earlier today on Bleacher Brothers, a guy that I think is one of the best athletes in the entire class. And it's probably my favorite player in all of college baseball, Cam.
But because of an injury, he's in the lineup, and he has been a game changer. This one's out to center field. It is deep. It is gone.
Yeah, so you guys have seen what Cam Kennerella is able to do on just pure athleticism. 65, or not 65, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Kennerella, just one of the most athletic kids in this entire class. Shows the ability to make unbelievable plays in the field, as you can see there. But he combines this athleticism with one of the smoothest left-handed swings in college baseball. A .337 hitter with Clemson in 2024. He hit 11 home runs, recorded 60 RBIs, and struck out under 16% of the time. He was battling a labrum injury, I believe, through the rest of 2024. I'm hoping that doesn't impact him in 2025. Moving on, we've got a couple pitchers to talk about. First being University of California, Santa Barbara, right-handed pitcher Tyler Bremner. UCSB really struck gold with Tyler Bremner, sporting both a 65 grade on his fastball and changeup. He's got an above-average grade on his slider as well. Bremner was a guy with a very high ceiling. I'd say he still has that high ceiling. He showed the ability to have success in starter's role as well as out of the bullpen. So I feel like he's going to have a big 2025 that propels him, hopefully top 10 in this year's MLB draft. But moving on, we've got the clear-cut best pitcher in this class. It's Jamie Arnold. This guy's just elite. One of the most exciting players in the draft. He is by far the best college arm here. The left-hander possesses a devastating fastball-slider combo that's ran through bats all the way up to Omaha. He'll look to help lead the Seminoles back to the College World Series, where they fell to Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers. Arnold was much improved last year from his first at FSU, where he went 11-3 in 18 starts and recorded a 2.98 ERA. But the number one player in this draft class is only right. It's A&M's Jace Laviolette. An outfielder from A&M, far and away, like I said, the best college bat in this draft. He will look to build off of an incredibly productive 2024 season for the Aggies. In his second season with A&M, Laviolette hit for a slash line of .305, .449, and .726 with almost 30 home runs, 16 doubles, 78 RBIs to go along with it. His power is undeniable, and he should have a monster 2025 season, I should say, with a lot of extra base hits as the Aggies look to get back to the College World Series in Omaha. But that is all the names in our top 30 for this year's preseason top 30 college draft prospects. I know that was a lot of info coming at you guys, so I'm going to post hopefully a thread of all of this on Twitter later to get it better in writing. But that's all I got for you guys today. We've got the Bleacher Brothers show coming up, so I don't want to go over time here. But I appreciate everybody tuning in to watch as always. And if you like the college baseball content, let me know. I'd love to do more in the future. But with all that being said, thank you guys again for tuning in to Back to the Dugout here on Wednesday night on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. And we got the Bleacher Brothers show to take you guys into the rest of the night. So thank you guys again. I'm Tobey Shulman, your host. And as always, I will be back next Wednesday. Have a good night.